Good afternoon, everyone. Keynote speakers, faculty, researchers, doctors, mentors, families, graduating seniors, and my fellow students. I hope you're enjoying the 20th Research Symposium. 20 years is a long time, and it's long enough for things to become a tradition. Traditions are everywhere here, and when I think about traditions, about what lasts and gets passed down and keeps returning every year, I find myself thinking about something very profound, something very timeless, something very deeply intellectual. I think about a dumpling. Yes, really. Every day, or every Friday, I make dumplings with my grandma, and it is my favorite tradition. And I love the whole process, but most of all, I love the filling of the dumpling. As a kid, I would sprint down the grocery store and get every single ingredient: egg, pork, cabbage, green onion, just throwing ingredients into the cart. And individually, those ingredients are good, yes, but together, whenever I mixed them together into the filling, they became something better, something richer. And that's how I see people. Different disciplines, different stories, different ages, different aspirations, and alone they're each an ingredient, and yes, they're meaningful, but brought together, they create a filling that's much richer. That to me is what Symposium is. It's a place where a historian can learn from a computer scientist, where a biologist can inspire an artist, where a ninth grader can look up to a senior and think, I want to be like you, where research is not just displayed, but it's shared between people with different perspectives. Now, if you know anything about dumplings, you know that the filling is not enough. Fillings fall apart, and you need the dough. So dough takes work. You have to knead it and knead it and knead it until it finally holds. What is the dough of our community? To me, it's not automatic, but it's persistence. I learned that persistence during my first ever Women in STEM event in 9th grade. It was a coding workshop for middle schoolers in the community, a free one to teach them about AI. I prepared for weeks and weeks, making sure everything was set. But on the day, only 2 students showed up for a room of volunteers. I was devastated. It wasn't the packed, transformative educational event I was planning. And that was the first big thing I did on the STEM, something that failed. But instead, I kept kneading the dough of my dumpling. I redesigned the curriculum, I contacted volunteers, I emailed over 100 organizations, telling them about our event, asking them if they have students who might be interested. Eventually, that workshop grew into a recurring program that we now hold at Bascom Library for middle schoolers. I also brought that workshop to Symposium 2 years ago, and every year it's become a tradition. Just 1 hour ago, we had that AI workshop again for middle schoolers. And it's really beautiful to see how persistence can bring these different people, different ingredients of the filling together. This event has never been about just the people presenting research. It's been connecting all the parts of this campus together. This morning I was talking to Mr. Aguilar about tech. Last night the kitchen staff stayed with us until 8 p.m. preparing this very room. We were sending emails to security, and then exhibitors came in, volunteers came in, students came in, faculty came in, researchers came in. This symposium works because so many people hold it all together. And I've always loved this kind of work. So sometimes I think, like a dumpling wrapper, I'm bringing these people together through these symposiums. And I wonder why I love this so much. I've realized that it's because I've spent most of my life feeling I've been made of too many ingredients. Plot twist, I'm also a dumpling. So I'm a dancer, And in dance, we have this thing called a straddle, which is where you put your legs out like this. And so for many years of my life, I have spent in a straddle, literally on the ground, stretching with my legs like that. But I realized that figuratively, I've also been in a straddle, suspended between different worlds, between dance and gymnastics, which I also do, between different languages like English, Spanish, and Chinese, between STEM and humanities. In 9th grade, I wrote in my New Year's resolution, find one thing that makes me uniquely me. Choose. Choose one label, choose one lane, one clean answer, so when someone asks me, what am I, what is my thing, I can tell them what that one thing is. But over time, I realized that my one thing is the ability to blend my different interests together. My creative superpower was never choosing between labels, but bringing them together. And the first place I saw this was through languages. So growing up speaking 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese, I would switch with my friends between them without thinking. I would say, necesito un break, let's chillar. It felt natural to me. But when I learned more about artificial intelligence, I discovered that AI models do very well in one language, but perform very badly when 2 languages are mixed together. So when I suggested researching code switching, I was waved off. Code switching doesn't matter. It's not mainstream. It's not even STEM, it's humanities. Which, translated, it really means code switching does not fit the dominant pattern. And machine learning often amplifies what's frequent, dominant, standardized. But people are not always standardized. Language is not always standardized. Life is not always standardized. So I pursued the project anyway, precisely because it was overlooked. Many nights I coded on my laptop, commuting from dance to gymnastics. I would cheer quietly when my model started to learn the nuance in code switch sentences. But even while I was teaching AI to make sense of these 2 different worlds mixing together, I was still afraid to live that way myself. At gymnastics one day, I was having my coaches choreograph my floor routine, and they refused because they said, your music is for dancers, not gymnasts. I'm not choreographing to this. And suddenly the question I had been asking in research has come into my daily life. What do you do when the world respects strict categories? Do you shrink yourself into one of them, or do you somehow make something new? Before, I would have just changed my music to a gymnastics music. But instead, I thought, if AI can learn to make sense of the in-between, can I? So I choreographed the routine myself. It was the first at my gym, no one's ever done that. And I fused the emotional parts of dance with the power of gymnastics. And I was terrified. But then I performed it. And somehow I won first place. And this was shocking. And everyone, including, it was shocking to me too. So my teammates began asking me to choreograph for them, to bring rap rhythms, Latin influences, whatever they were interested in, into their gymnastics. That same spirit of blending took me beyond just dance or gymnastics and into research. My research on code switching outperformed the best benchmarks in Spanish, English, and Malayalam English code switching. And I was able to travel to a graduate level conference in Florida, where I met a bunch of researchers from Mexico and the Philippines and India, who all came to me and said, I switch between languages too. I'm so interested in this. And so my research became not just about the model, but about people, about the voices who are in between, about cultures resisting prescribed labels, and the realization that the things we call messy are often just human. So, back to dumplings. I think one of my biggest research lessons is these innovations in the in-between spaces and bringing those together. But blending sounds beautiful on the surface. In real life, it often starts with being underestimated. research has always made me feel like the underdog. As the youngest person in many rooms, in research spaces, in meetings, in conference rooms, in conversations with adults, in the scholarly body of work that exists, I felt like the underdog. The student, the beginner, the youngest one there, the one they said that didn't understand yet, the one they said was studying something that doesn't matter. And maybe that's just part of being an adult, becoming an adult. Realizing that no one appoints you as ready. Sometimes you just simply walk into the room anyway. Sometimes your voice shakes. Sometimes your slides are not loading. Sometimes you try to sound authoritative even though you're terrified. But you walk in anyway. And of course, being the underdog leads to failure. Like a lot, like so much failure. So many broken code scripts, nonsensical outputs, experiments collapsing at 2 a.m., directions that lead nowhere, rejections. I want to share a story about a research project I started 3 years ago at a summer program about using large language models to study political debates for the election in 2024. We submitted a paper to a research conference and it got rejected harshly. No impact, lacks depth, those are the comments we got. And one of my teammates quit. We pivoted to fact-checking and rebuilt the system from scratch. And then another paper came out with our exact same approach. Another teammate quit. Even my mom told me to stop, which for the record is devastating because moms are usually the last line of delusion. But I couldn't let go of the question. Free speech is messy and noisy, and most data sets try to clean the mess away. But what if the noise is the point? Messiness is human. So we rebuilt it again, rejected again, and we kept going until I reframed the work and submitted it to NeurIPS, which is one of the largest AI conferences in the world. It was accepted. 3 years, 3 rewrites, 2 teammates lost, and 1 idea I refused to let go. You never do research work in vain. It always comes to help you, even through the failures. Even when the result is not as you hoped, the process changes you. It teaches you how to think better and question better, persist better, and that is why reflection matters. Writing a paper about research is not just reporting what happened, but reflection is allowing you to learn more from it. It's about creating more meaning out of what you've done. It's about getting more life out of life. And so in my days, this past year, writing college apps, reflecting on my life, I see it not as something to go through, but as a blessing, as a way for me to learn more about my life, to experience it again through reflection. It's not just surviving the hard parts, but it's asking what made those hard parts possible. So today, looking out into this room, I know many of us are standing at some kind of threshold. Some of you are wisdom officers, some of you are alumni, some of you are keynote speakers and faculty who have guided us as students. And many of you are seniors moving on to what comes next. Somewhere in this room is a younger student looking up at one of you and thinking, I want to be like you. I know that student. I was that student. So to the younger students here, you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to have one perfect label or one perfect straight line path. To the seniors and to all of us as we grow older, adulthood is not about being finished. It's about learning to keep building, to keep kneading our dumplings, to keep being the underdog, to keep failing, to keep reflecting on those failures, to keep blending even when no one quite sees your vision yet. I want to leave you all with the image of a dumpling. Thank you for contributing your ingredient to Symposium's Dumpling. We really appreciate you being role models for our community of researchers. And you're making a really big impact.